I even have cases where just one property and also 300,000 fixed deposit. Family actually fight when the parents are still alive. The daughter actually conned the mother to make a will and then took the money, get her to write a will. That will is not from professionals. But apparently, when a person goes missing in Malaysia, without a death certificate, the banks will not pay out anything to you, not even your insurance, right? In order to get a death cert, you have to wait for 7 years. Today, a lot of youngsters are easily being scammed, which I just got news yesterday. Someone gets scammed, all right, over 100,000.
So a lot of my listeners will ask this. I don't even have a lot of money. Why should I do legacy planning? Hello, listeners. We don't leave legacy by accident. We leave it by design. Today's episode, we'll talk about legacy planning, a topic many would avoid until it's too late. And today's episode is brought to you by FA Advisory. FA Advisory is licensed by Bank Negara. And today we have Jeannie Tong here to share with us. Jeannie, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much to have me here.
Yes, Jeannie, you came all the way from Puchong. And we'll start off with this question.
Yeah.
So today we'll talk about legacy planning. And please share with us, how did you start with this? How do you get into this?
Actually, I was formerly from the bank 33 years ago. Then one day I decided to quit my job. And I don't know where should I go for. In the first place, what I do is I actually look at my strength, as I am a strength finder coach. So my top strength was solving problem, restorative. So I solve people's problem and I identify it very fast. So I was looking at it. Which part of financial, right? People needs the most challenges that needs people to solve problem. In fact, it's estate planning, which is like will, trust, and legacy planning, because that is the toughest part where people needs to look at how to actually address every single part of it. Everyone is very unique in terms of their life and their families. So therefore, I feel that this is the best part for me to explore, which I do not actually have the exposure in the bank, and I want to actually go in and learn further and help others as well.
And today you are helping companies, individuals with legacy planning?
Yes, yes. Today, in fact, I help a lot of individuals,
Mhm.
companies to avoid dispute as well, and also, to structure entire planning for them, so that at least they have a peace of mind.
You mentioned wills just now. So what is the difference, wills and legacy planning?
Okay, a will is basically a direct distribution. A lot of people think that, oh, a will is just sufficient. But apparently a will is just a direct distribution, means I give it to you, that's it, full stop.
Mm.
But whereas for a trust, it's something that, or a legacy planning, is something that I plan how I want to give it to you, when I want to give it to you, how much I want to give it to you. I can have the remote control even though I'm no longer in this world. So I can remote control in the heaven or in the hell and see how, I want my families to actually continue the life with.
So you also mentioned this, there is also a part where it plays with government control.
Oh, okay. Government control is basically if you don't have a will,
Mhm.
basically the government will steps in.
Oh,
All right. And then if the acts will come in, all right. When the act comes in, basically they will follow according to what are the acts. So you actually lost in terms of the chances for you to control who is the guardian for your children. In terms of the money, like how you want to segregate, maybe probably you want to give your son more, but now today, because of this situation, it become less because it has to follow the segregation of like how the government allocates. So you have to follow that way.
So if you don't have a will or even a trust, the government will take it away. Am I right?
The government won't take it away, but it's just that the family members would have to go and apply for LA, we call letter of administration, in order to distribute the assets to a family. But the family doesn't even know what you have. It's like a treasure hunt.
Mm.
So then the family will have to go and hunt on whatever assets you have. So it'll be very challenged for them, in fact.
So a lot of my listeners will ask this. I don't even have a lot of money. Why should I do legacy planning?
That's a very good question. A lot of people think that I don't have a lot of money. Why should I plan it? But apparently, very simple. Today, everyone will definitely have banks account. You have your car.
Mm.
You have your properties. Then who are the ones that usually you love to give it to? Your families, like your children. If anything happened to your children, who's going to take care of your children? Usually people say, no worries, my wife will take care. But unfortunately, sometimes husband and wife travels together or families whole family cuti Malaysia together, then that will be a very challenge for the entire family. So it's good to plan ahead so that your family do not need to worry about it.
A lot of people also face things like guardianship, like sureties and things like that. How does it help with that?
Okay, if let's say you have a will, you could actually avoid all those guardianship orders in a
Mm.
court, and also sureties. Sureties is basically like guarantor, we call it, right? People who have above 600,000 and before they reach 2 million, those people will have these assets, right? Requires to have a will. But if
Mhm.
they don't have, they are required to have a similar amount of assets they have as a guarantor, especially to become their guarantor for their letter of administration to go into the court. So because of that, right, it is very hassle for the family.
You mentioned there's a delay also?
Yes, the delay would probably takes you like more than 2 years and above,
Mhm.
right? Even for my father's own LA, it took me about 2 years to get the LA out, and it's so hassle because we went through treasure hunt for his assets, like what he has. We have no idea. I have to go over to the lawyers. I have to go to the letter of how to say. We went to the commission of oath and a lot more things. So it become more challenge for the entire family. In fact.
So, can you share with us the story? What happened with your father?
Okay, my father thought that he only have a property and a bank account, so it's still simple as enough. I think a majority, a lot of people have that, and they think that yeah, I don't need to have a will because it's just a property only, ma. But he doesn't know that when he died, out of sudden, the property itself and also the bank account, he didn't leave a will. So because of that, I know that I have to go and apply for LA. So I went to a lawyer, I applied LA. But the problem is when the family members have to appoint me as an administrator, I have to bring the entire family together with me to re-announce their rights to me. Then we have to go to commission of oath. I have to go through a lot of departments to get it done. So and the delay was 2 years before I could actually get a LA. So it was so tremendous hassle, in fact.
2 years just to get the LA?
Yes,
And
just
then
to get
everything
LA.
settled how many years?
Everything settled plus minus about 3 years.
Wow. So, speaking from experience, right? What is the biggest mistake you see people make?
Okay, usually people fear to plan
Mm.
because why? They feel that planning is not a necessity and people don't see a will or a trust is so crucial because to them it's that it's okay lah. I can actually, if I pass away, my family members will know how to settle it. But unfortunately, a lot of families that went into dispute because why? I may be guessing like my father, when he's alive, he told me that he wants to give me this property. Then the other brother say, no, Pa say want to give it to me. So it become complicated because everyone would be fighting against one property.
It becomes he say, she say, no?
Right, correct.
Yeah.
Because the verbal kind of,
Mm.
it's not in written black and white, right? Because of that, right, family fight against it. And the worst thing is, a lot of people doesn't know when it comes to LA or even other things, right? After a person die, right, there's many cause behind the scene. So if the family members comes into the picture, how can a family member afford to pay, especially your children today? They can't afford to pay those fees that are behind the scene.
What are those fees?
Legal fees, all
Mhm.
right, grant of probate fees,
Okay.
right? Basically, you need to pay for properties, you need to pay for your perfection of transfer,
Mhm.
MOT, and all those kinds of fees are
Mhm.
actually pile up behind the scene. Therefore, the children, right, sometimes say, wow, I have to pay so much. Ah. It's okay, I leave the asset aside.
And you mentioned there will be delays also, right? That
Yeah, there will be tremendous delay because you have to go through all this process, right?
Mm.
The delays could be probably like 2 years, 3 years, like what I mentioned, because you have to run through the banks, each banks, if your father have like 3 banks or 4 banks, you have to go each banks and talk to them and hunt to them. And if you still have loan, the worst thing is you need to go and negotiate with the banks. Like how am I going to settle the loan?
Mhm. You mentioned you have a lot of brothers and sisters. So how can you avoid conflict over inheritance?
Okay, the best place to avoid all the conflict and inheritance, right, is to set up a trust, right? A will is just direct distribution, but unless your children are, all adults and they are very matured, they know how to manage financial, your families are very harmony, they don't fight in that situation, it's okay, you can do a direct distribution. But a lot of families, as we know, when it comes to money, right, people tends to change and they will fight against properties, money. I even have cases where just one property and also 300,000 fixed deposit. Family actually fight when the parents are still alive. The daughter actually called the mother to make a will and then took the money, get her to write a will That will is not from professionals, just for your information. She make arrangement, get the mom to sign off everything to give it to her, and also con the mother's fixed deposit. But after that, the siblings all got to know that they actually sue against her.
I've heard this story many times. And then after that, the siblings don't talk to each other anymore. They
Yes,
become enemies, which is
right,
very normal,
right.
right? So a lot of these things happen, and sometimes they fight already. How do you stop the fighting?
Okay, the best way to stop the fighting is to set up a trust. When you have a trust, you can actually control it. As a parent, if you want to avoid all this happening into your family, the disputes, the best way is to have a proper planning.
Mhm.
All right, engage a financial planner to sit down with you to structure the whole entire thing. Calculate how much you need and then how much your children needs,
Mm.
right? And what are the assets you want to give it to them? And then some parents say, "I want to be fair." But in terms of your fairness, right? How do you define the fairness? So usually we'll sit down with them, we will break down every single part and share that with them, like, is this what you want to give and how much is the allocation? So the trust itself, it can be controlled in a way that you can control when you want to give it to them, how you want to give it to them, so that they are not spendthrift or they are being scammed by someone. Because today a lot of youngsters are easily being scammed, which I just got news yesterday. Someone gets scammed,
Mm.
all right, over 100,000
True, if because of legacy planning.
because of no legacy planning.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it's easily been scammed, in fact.
Yeah. So as a parent, right? I'm thinking, how do I reduce the stress for my kids? What do you say to them?
Okay, for parents who wants to reduce those kind of challenges for their kids in future, right? The best way is you plan that you can allocate a certain allowance for them, like how much you want to give them as a maintenance. You can fix that along the way until they are more matured, then you stop. At the same time, you can also take care of their medical. If let's say you're worried, all their educations. So all this, right, it can be pre-planned ahead of time.
And it also protects families with like special needs or minor children,
Oh,
right?
yes, definitely. For people who have special needs, right? Don't just plan or not only special needs and mental issue children. Together, you need to plan ahead. So
Wow.
with the trust itself, right, you'll be able to plan ahead, like when you give it, who is the person that I want to appoint as a guardian to take care of my children if I'm not around? How am I going to pay my guardian?
Mhm,
How am I going to pay for my children's until his demise?
mhm.
That's how you can control it.
You also mentioned it helps to reduce taxes. How does it do that?
Okay, it help you to save some taxes. I won't
Mhm,
say reduce, right? Because we have to pay tax. Okay, when a person dies, basically everyone thought that even like a very common fixed deposit. People will say fixed deposit when we are alive, we don't need to pay tax. But when we die, do you know you need to pay tax?
okay.
Basically, whatever your estate, when a person pass away, the income still come into your estate. It's actually taxable. So you still need to pay tax. So the executor who actually runs the show for you, who runs around for you, would need to actually clear your tax for you.
Mm,
So in order to save tax, is that you can calculate ahead what are the tax that it will probably comes in. How could I save those tax? So you can do this via earlier planning.
mhm.
But if you only do it very last minute, your family will have to pay more tax for sure because they don't know and you just throw a bomb on them. All right. But if you do it earlier, you can avoid that.
Yeah, so for a lot of families, right, they want to keep things private. It also helps with that, right?
Oh, yes. For a trust, right, it's a private document, whereas a will is actually a public document. When
Mhm,
people goes probate, right, the creditors, let's say you owe me money, I could actually goes and apply from the probate and then I can see how much you have.
mhm.
That's all your creditors can come after it.
So let's get to the gist of it. What is the main difference between a will and you mentioned a trust?
Okay. For a will, basically the initial start off is lower compared to a will, a trust. Trust basically you need to pay a setup cost first. All right. And then gradually when they start activating, then only they charge you.
Mhm,
The other one is they also look at the how to say, we call it the P, the protections. If you want protections, all right, for a will, there is very minimum protections in terms of your assets. Because why? If anything happens, creditors can come after because it's actually the public could actually see it, so the creditors can come after it. Whereas for the trust, it's private. Therefore, it's actually protected in a way that your creditors couldn't see it. So your assets are kind of protected for your families in that way.
So let's break that down, right? So if the deceased owes creditors money,
Mm.
the creditors can go and see the will and then can come after the property.
Yes, you're right. Yeah, they can come after your assets.
Wow. Okay, next one, is it speed?
Yeah, speed wise, in terms of like, if let's say you go through a will probably takes you 8 to 12, 24 months,
Mm,
all right? Probably 2 years that I mentioned just now. And for a trust, the trust that we mentioned is like, say, standby trust or living trust kind of thing. You could actually activate immediately and you can get your fund within 1 to 2 months. So it's a shortcut above than your will. Rather than you just have a will, you have to wait like 2 to 3 years, your family cannot survive. But the trust is a shortcut to your will.
And then besides that, that's control as well.
Yes, definitely. You could actually control it via your will. Your trust. A will is only very minimum that you can control, right?
Mhm.
If you have a testamentary trust, you can control it. But if you don't have, it will be just direct distribution. But for a trust, it's definitely a remote control on how you want to control,
Mm.
preserve it, and then only you distribute.
Let's dive into that. So you mentioned remote control, like a TV. What do
Yes.
you mean? Like you control the amount, you control the time. What do you control?
Okay, I can control everything.
Wow.
I can control when I'm still alive, in case I'm in dementia, coma,
Mhm.
and I want you to pay my bills for me. I can control that even though I'm actually, I lie down and I can't even do anything. Second thing is I can control even though I am in dementia stage, my family are still taken care of. Like
Mhm.
continue paying my education for my children, pay for their medical bills, and also pay for their monthly maintenance.
Mm. And then when it comes to flexibility, what do you mean by that?
Okay, flexibility, for example, a will. Can you change your will after a person die? Basically, no, right?
Okay.
But for a trust, you can still change it even after the person demise or migrated to heaven. You
Mhm.
can still change it because as long as I put the instruction in my trust, allowing someone to change, that person can still change it.
Mhm. So what if their children are still young?
That's a very good question. Apparently, in Malaysia, we have a lot of young, young children's parents.
Mhm.
So basically, children, you need to actually help them to manage it. All right, in a way that a trust is the very best way to control it for them. You can actually put like who do you want? First thing you can appoint your own guardian. You can have control who I want the guardian to be, how much I want to pay the guardian. At the same time, how much I want to pay my children.
Mm.
Every month, a certain amount. If let's say I go through a will directly, the guardian could probably take out everything. But today, if I put it in a trust, the trust can actually help me to pay allowance to the guardian. Please take care of my children. Every month, 3,000, I pay you 3,000, rather than a lump sum. Therefore, it will not be scammed by someone. At the end of the period, when my children reach a matured age, let's say 25, I pass on everything to them.
Oh, that's very interesting. So moving on to a very common question, right? A lot of people ask me, "Hey, can I write my own will?" What do you say to them?
Okay, in fact, I would not advise anyone to write your own will, all right? Unless you are a legal lawyers, or you are very professional will writers, you know how to do it yourself.
Mm,
If anyone, right, that will write their own will, first of all, don't write your own will is because you do not know what happened, what are the jurisdiction, what are the law behind the scene, what are the tax behind the scene, right? We have to go through many years to get it through. Let me just throw you a scenario on a real life story
yep.
on one of my client who DIY his own will. Super rich, all right, with many companies. What happened was he actually wanted to save costs. He thought that a will is just a paper ni ma. I can just write. I don't need someone to do it and charge me so much, right? So what he did was he actually get a lawyer to do a simple will for him, and then from there, right, he keep amending his will until a day when he asked me, "Hey, can you come and help me to review my will?" When I was looking at his will, I was also shocked. A lot of things that instrument or instruction given inside, it cannot be executed by the executor. Not doable one. All right. But then he continued to do it because why? He refused to pay money to get someone professionals to do it for him. And all of a sudden, one day, he passed away. And the daughter came to me and says that my dad passed away out of sudden. And they look for the will and things like that. So the daughter was appointed as the executor. So she actually start to execute the thing. But apparently, then after that, she came back to me. I have a challenge. Then I asked her, what's the challenge? My brother is a mental issue, guy. And now he refused to sign anything. And my dad actually left behind for him few properties, companies to manage, and also cash and also insurance. How can a mental issue person or incapacity to handle such a thing? It's already not sound mind. He can't do it. So there's a challenge now that how do we preserve this kind of assets, right? For this person, you should have actually set up a trust to protect it rather than give it to him directly.
So in summary, right, if you write your own will, what will go wrong?
Okay, a lot of things will go wrong. First thing, you may have misinterpret a lot of the clauses. All right, you may think that certain thing can be done, but it cannot be doable. Right, your provision is definitely wrong, and you do not understand like how to certain part of the jurisdiction means the legal part of it. All right, and so the tax. Right, and the complication is if you did it your will, right, you cannot avoid what happened to your children. All those dispute will come in.
So what is your advice to them? Find a lawyer, find a planner. What do you say?
Okay, to be very frank, please go and look for a professional financial planner or a professional will writer who have actually done it for many years and very experienced of helping you to solve all anger. If a person who can just write a will for you is not sufficient enough, you need to find someone who can go deep dive it and plan for you because planning is not easy. A lot of people out there would not want to plan. Why? Because planning is not even especially like a trust. It's not easy to structure a trust. You must find someone who are mastering a trust who can actually help you to plan well.
All right. So can I combine everything, right? And everything, I have different assets in different countries. Can I put everything into one will?
Okay. In fact, a lot of people say that, okay, I save everything. I put everything into one will. Safer side, I don't need to fly here and there. You can do that. It's not that you cannot do that. But for Malaysia grant of probate, right, it's actually in Bahasa Melayu. All right. But when you want to go, let's say you want to take your will, you want to go to US or you want to go to Singapore or you want to go to Indonesia. Indonesia, no problem, Bahasa Melayu. But the problem is when you go to the foreign countries, majority of their grant of probate right, are in English. All right. So before you go in, you have to do a reseal. That reseal and translation, right, probably cost you a bomb. It's even more expensive than you write a will. So usually we will advise the client, please do have a separate will from a different countries. If you have different assets in different country, have a separate will. And it
Wow.
can run concurrently for you.
Also in different languages.
Yes. It saves time, in fact.
Right. So we talk about wills. Now we move on to trust. You mentioned something called a standby trust. What does it mean?
Okay, standby trust is very famous in Singapore, Malaysia, some different terms, all right, but it's also similar like standby trust. Standby means something like a safe deposit box for you, a safe box for you. You put all your asset in, and you need it during emergency, right? Then only open this safe box to rescue yourself. All right. So it's a similar, it's a trust where you put in your asset, but we do not actually take away your asset. All right. Basically, your asset is just set up, the documentation is set up. At a point of time, anything happened to you, for example, coma, TBD, or even go missing. All right. In this situation, your family can actually come and activate the trust. Once they activate the trust, the standby trust will activate. They will take the money from your banks, everything, and start paying your bills
Mm.
and start taking care of you. Of course, important.
Yeah, it's like television on standby, right? That
Yes, correct.
activate anytime.
Standby mode.
So you mentioned, I think you shared with me the story about the missing aeroplane MH370.
Right.
Can you share with us that story again?
Okay. As I said, I was a previous banker, right?
Mm.
So when MH370 happens, the client's family comes in and actually asks for money. But apparently, when a person goes missing in Malaysia without a death certificate, the banks will not pay out anything to you, not even your insurance, right? In order to get a death cert, you have to wait for 7 years. So if a missing person, right, you have to wait for 7 years. Ask yourself a question: can your family survive without any money from you for 7 years? Of course they can't, right? They need money. So
Mhm.
if that's the case, right, the best way is you go through this standby trust, you activate the trust will immediately take the money from the bank and they will start taking care of your family. So
Mm.
it's the autopilot to take care of your family. Not to worry, even though you go missing, your family will still well taken care of.
MH370 took many years, right, before they announced the death.
Correct. Yeah. Therefore, the family was having challenge, right?
Mhm.
But those people who have this standby trust, no issue because they
Mhm.
just activate the standby trust. Then with the standby trust, they will actually take
Mm.
over your account and they will continue to take care of your family. But those without it, right, they were appealing with the banks and the insurance. But luckily, some banks and insurance company do pay out because
Mm.
they saw that the government have done so much resources to look for it.
It's a tragedy.
Yeah.
All right. So how can this standby trust help to access the money faster?
Okay, with the standby trust, there is a POA in the standby trust where it allows the trustee to actually help you to go to the bank to withdraw all your money for you and to help you. Then some people will have their insurance. They could actually put in their insurance as well as an element or their investment to help them if in case of emergency, all these funds can be taken out to actually support you.
So some people are worried their assets, right, frozen or delayed, right? How to avoid that?
Standby trust is the best.
Mm.
All right. Reason why is standby trust actually it can avoid probate. All
What
right.
is probate?
Probate is grant of probate. All right. Means if a person have a will, the person dies, they have to apply from high court. They call it a probate, all right, grant of probate. So that probate comes out only you can pay your tax before distribute. So this probate, right, from a period from a person died and apply for grant of probate, it will probably takes you about 4 to 6 months. All right. So during this period, but your family members cannot access to your fund. But for standby trust, right, within 1 to 2 months, they can actually go into your bank and take money and pay your family. So you actually avoid that step. So
Mhm.
because of that, your family actually gets money much faster, in fact.
So it can take even years, right, for probate.
Yes, yes, yes. Some families, because they delay in looking for the family assets,
Mm.
because the parents probably have not told them or they don't have a proper housekeeping. Therefore, the children look high and low, and they also no time because they are so busy with their current work. Therefore, they delay in the process, right? So the whole grant probate, right, probably takes you more than a year.
Mm. So when it comes to the trust, every sort of asset I can put in the trust, right? From properties to cash to bank accounts, everything I can put in there.
You can put in your bank's account,
Mhm.
insurance, your properties, right? And also your company shares. We help a lot of companies to put in the company shares
Mm.
to avoid disputes from the partners. Because when a person die, right, the next thing is what do your partner do? Because if you wait for a will to give your company away, your partners would probably have already moved the business to another entity and leave a blank check, blank company for your family. So in that case, right, in order to prevent all this happen, we actually transfer company shares via the standby trust. So it's like within 1 to 2 months, your family members are become the immediate owner of your shares. So then they can actually step into the company and negotiate with the partners.
So it helps to avoid a lot of conflict.
Precisely, in fact.
Yeah, so we talked a lot about trust today, but for our listeners, maybe they are starting out, all right? So what do you say to them if they are starting out?
Okay, if they are planning to start up in terms of like planning in terms of their will and trust, my advice is do engage a professional, like financial planner like us, or either you can look for a professional will writers who can actually plan for you. Planners usually is the one who plans. Then you sit down with us and tell us directly what happened to your families. Let us understand and we help you to plan it out gradually from there.
Yep, and when it comes to this, right, I think my parents wrote a will many years ago. How often should I review these documents?
Very good question. In fact, a lot of people thought that they keep their wills for 20 years, 30 years. I want to write one time only. I don't want to repeat writing my will again, right? But unfortunately, things changes. First of all, maybe your lifestyle change. All right. Maybe suddenly you strike a lottery, or maybe you inherit something from your family members. Then things changes in your life. Or maybe people remarry. All right. Or maybe before that they write a will before marriage and after marriage, there's a different thing as well. At the same time, also situation change, like law change, taxes change. So therefore, you need to review your will at least 2 to 3 years.
So I'm in my 30s now. Is it too young to think about legacy planning?
Oh, last time probably a lot of people say too young, but after with COVID, right, there's no longer too young. Even as young as anyone could actually just collapse and die the next day. That's what we heard. So to be very fair, a lot of young people today, right, they are very lucky. The parents plan everything for them. Parents give them a lot of assets. But if today they do not have a will, what happened is their family members, because you probably like 30s, you have probably set up families, you have your own children. You may want to give those assets to your children, but you don't plan right. End up your children will have to go through all the suffers, LA lah, all the process, right? But if you plan well for them, whatever you inherit will go down to them easily. In fact,
Especially those with young children.
especially with young children, yes.
So people will say this, right? My EPF, I already put who should it go to. My house, I already put who should it go to. And then many other things. Do I still need a will for this?
Yes, you do. You do. Okay. A lot of times, even when I was in the corporate, I thought that, oh, I have an EPF. I nominate my husband, my son. That's enough. All right. I have a nomination in case I close my eyes the next day. Everything is well taken care of. But unfortunately, Malaysia people like to cuti Malaysia, together lah, or Malaysia overseas, we go one whole family together. What happened if I give my shares to my husband and my son, and both of them gone together with me? Then what happened to my EPF funds? What happened to the nomination that I've done? It is a question mark.
Mm.
Where are these assets going to be? But if I have written in my will that stated that who is the backup, my backup plan, then I could actually save all the hassle, and this will not stuck in Amanah Raya, because why? It will now goes to the whoever respective person that I have actually nominated in my will.
Yeah, so the will will override all of these things, right?
The will be a backup
Mhm.
of your nomination that you have done for your EPF, your PRS, or your ASMB. It will be a backup contingency.
So it will help with all the claims.
Yes, it will help with all the claims.
All right. So for those without children, right, they might say this, can I leave my assets to my pets?
Oh, definitely. A lot of people now have pets instead of children,
Mhm.
because people say that, I want to take good care of my, dogs or my cats. You could actually set up, we call a pet trust. A pet trust is something that appointed a guardian. I pay my guardian every month. I need you to take care of this particular baby or
Oh.
my pet. When to take the dogs to, the clinic. Which clinic do I prefer? How much to pay, buy what kind of food for my dog, when to take him for a walk, and that kind of thing, right? I could actually put it into my trust and instruct my guardian to do it.
Mm.
Yeah.
So some people also want to leave it for charity, am I right?
Yes. I do have people who leave money for charity, like for church. Some for like Suchi, they do that. So basically, if people who wants to leave money for charity, they will approach us and tell us, can you help us to set up a trust to guide these particular funds, make sure that this money is well protected, preserve it, then only gradually give it to this charity organization. Yes, we do that for them, in fact.
All right, Jeannie, some people, like myself, have their own business. How does a will or trust help with that?
Okay. If it's a will, right, usually for your business, right, it takes time after your ground probate is out, then only you could transfer the business. So that may takes time. All right. Let me throw you an actual scenario happens to a professional. All right. The professional thought that accountant who passed away without a will. All right. And they have like three business partner, thought that this will be no issue lah, because they have like a lot of people have the under counter sign form, and then they get it done with, right? But unfortunately, what happened is when three of these partners, right, when they run the business, each of them have their own personal computers. One of the accountants who holds the computer, right, he have all the customers' information. When he passed away, right, apparently the computer holds everything. So the wife comes into the company using the computer as a threaten tools to threaten the two partners. If you want this particular client base in my husband's computer, please pay me his share. Then because that company is actually running through a legal suit from a certain case, therefore they need to preserve the fund for the legal suit. It's not that they don't want to pay her, but the wife was making a big hoo-ha to demand for the money, and the two partners have no choice to decided to open up another company, move all the customers to the another company. Now that company is a zero empty company. So end up, right, she couldn't claim anything because there's an empty shell now. But the worst thing is, a lot of time business partners that they do not understand is, let's say if you are a guarantor of the company, right? Your company will probably ask for loans from the bank. And if you are a guarantor for the company, if your partners move the business out like this, right? By the time when the will finish everything, when your wife wants to come and claim the company, instead of claiming the money, you are paying the debts. Because why? As a guarantor, this company wind up, no money, let's say owe something, and your husband is a guarantor, basically it will goes into your personal estate. So means your wife, instead of inherit, she has to pay for the debt. So would you still want this particular company asset? It's not an asset then. So it's best to ideally is to trash it out when during lifetime, partners and partners sit down, how much is your share, then let's talk about it. How are we going to buy over each other's share?
Yeah, so you work with so many families and companies as well. Can you share with us any horror stories?
Oh, that is a lot. In fact, I've seen horror stories like divorce cases nowadays. There's a lot where the husband actually scammed the wife 2 years before he divorced her. So he planted a lot of things to make it like she has mental issue. To make it like she cannot afford to take care of the three children. So he actually grabbed hold of the three children, grabbed hold of the assets, and make until the wife really go tremendous, crazy. But she was actually still sound mind, because she came in and she approached us that she wanted to set up a will and a trust to safeguard everything, because they are going through a divorce. But then she wants to make sure that even I divorce, I make sure that all my assets still goes to my son or my children, rather than it goes to my ex-husband. So how do you protect that? Again, come back to the trust. So the planning is very important. The planning is the way that we can help you to safeguard and keep everything within the wall for you. Let's say you say how you want to do it, everything can be structured.
So for families, right, now they have maybe more than 2 generations, they have 3 generations. How does a trust help with that?
Okay, a trust could actually helps a family, right, to actually maintain it for many legacy to come. Means instead of one generation, it can go for like 2 or 3 generations. If you properly plan out your trust or either a foundation, it can actually goes to many generation. I just quote you example just like one of the trust foundation very famous in Penang. All right, it's called the Ban Lee Bank. Previously, it's a bank, but now the founder is Yap Choi Yi. He actually did a very good foundation where his foundation, right? Imagine he dies for so many years, the foundations keep running, and they even have university now. They have like properties that they're managing. They have banks, so they branch out into many businesses. So today, a lot of people could actually also set up similar things like that, where they set up a foundation or either a trust where it can actually, duplicate business within their family and to pass it on to many generations to come. So via this channel, right, you can control everything rather than just direct distribute.
Yeah, I've been to his museum slash house
Yeah.
in Penang before. All right, thank you, Jeannie, for sharing with us. So wills, trust, and legacy planning are for you to protect your loved ones and also avoid all the drama. Legacy planning is not just a safeguard, it is an act of love. Jeannie, thank you for sharing with us today.
Thank you.
And if you have any questions on legacy planning, please contact FA Advisory.